It is a good morning. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And we believe that power talks and the truth will set you free. Good morning, Melody.
And good morning to the listeners. Hard to believe March 5th.
I know. It's like,
good
oh
grief.
my gosh. They say it's a sign of age. When the days just keep going faster and the years just roll on and on and on and on. And, it is hard to believe we're already into March. And this year of 2018, you remember when you were a kid and you thought you'd never live that long? I remember when I was a kid, I thought 20 was old.
I can remember being in like one of my very early classes. I don't know if it was third grade or something like that, and we figured out what year it would be when we turned 50. And it was like, oh my goodness. That was so many, 50s come and gone, and
the old song in the year 2525.
Well, we won't make that.
No, well, let's speak for yourself. I might make that. I don't know.
Well, with all
quit breaking my elbow.
Well, with all this AI and head transplants and brain transplants, and we could be alive in 25, but Lord knows.
What state we'd be in.
What we'd look like.
I'm picturing Matrix, we're just all computers. We're just all, oh, gracious.
Reminds me of an old joke about a woman. She was in a car accident. She died. She went up to heaven, and God said to her, "Well, you're just not ready yet." So I'm going to send you back down. And she goes back down. She comes, and she was so happy that she went, and she just wanted really to enjoy the rest of her time on Earth. And she goes, and she was aging. She was in her late 50s, I guess. And she goes and gets a facelift. She goes to the tummy tucks, and she does all this and so forth, and she's looking like a whole brand new person. She walks out of her of a store one day, and she gets hit by a bus. She goes up to heaven. She says, "Well, I thought I had a lot of years left on Earth." He says, "Well, you did, but I didn't recognize you."
Let that be a warning to you.
Let that be a warning to you. Anyway, I'm not good at partying with jokes, but there you go.
You did well. You did well. You did very well on it. There was kind of a joke yesterday. I made it back to church on Sunday. Now, it's not that I haven't gone, but I haven't been going regularly because of my broken arm, so I have missed Sunday school and church in my local church. I went with my son when we traveled down to his place a couple of weeks ago. But they always have to bring up politics or something when I come to Sunday school. And they asked me if I'd heard about the red lights. And I said, no, I haven't heard about the red lights. And so I don't know if you've heard about this or not. And I tried to kind of Google it last night or do a little search on it. And I think it's a spoof, but I think it was a spoof back in 2016. But anyway, the story was that all these progressives, all these anti-gun people were putting red lights in their porch lights to indicate that they are a gun-free zone, that they don't have any guns in their house. I thought, well, that's going to work really well. I said, well, that's a whole different red light district than what I was taught when I was a kid. So I don't think it was true, but that was the story yesterday morning about asking me about the red lights. And I said, well, I haven't heard about that. So, and I think surely they're not even that stupid. I mean, I know they're pretty stupid, but surely they're not that stupid. I said, it'd be kind of fun just to put the red light in and then sit there with your shotgun. Anyway. I have a little something I wanted to talk about and ask you and ask the listeners if they've heard of telemedicine. Now, some of these places are companies or medical companies or whatever, they're popping up, and it's you tell a doc, you call the doctor. Now, back in the day when my kids were little, if one of them got sick, the family physician said, it's going to go through every one of these kids, and maybe you and your husband, but every one of these kids is going to get this. He said, so I'm going to give you X amount of refills. They don't do that anymore now that we have, not just Obamacare, it switched whenever the PPOs and the HMOs and all those things came into be because you had to go see the doctor first. They would not prescribe medication if they had not seen you, and that wasn't the case when my kids were little. But this is an article coming from, and I have seen and heard of some of these groups, and I think people are doing real well with them if you're basically healthy and you don't want, I said I wasn't sure where I caught my little cold when I broke my elbow, whether it was in the ER from one of the grandkids that came over and visited. But, you go to the ERs or the doctor's offices, and all that's sitting there is sick people, so you can catch all this stuff. This is coming from the Daily Signal, and it says, I tried telemedicine, and I was amazed, and here's why it can be a huge aid during the flu season. Now, he claimed in this article that he had, which I thought was hysterical because I have been saying, what we had, I wouldn't call it the flu, I would call it a cold. What my husband and I ended up getting about that time I got this elbow broke was a cold. He said that he was having to travel, and all he had was this lingering cold. He couldn't get over it. He had to get on the airplane. He had to go travel. And so his wife suggested that he try this telemedicine. And he said it worked really well. He called it a lingering cold. Nobody ever says they have a cold anymore. They just say they've got some kind of flu or virus or whatever the case may be. And he did this. He treated this over the phone, or you can do it with Skype or FaceTime or whatever. The doctor actually, you could see your doctor and talk to him and tell him what's going on and everything. And he'll prescribe a medicine for it, whether you just need a little antibiotic, a little decongestant that's better than what you can get across the counter or whatever. Anyway, he goes on to say that this worked really well for him. You don't have to sit in the office. You don't have to wait for hours. You don't have to sit there with a bunch of sick people. And I know that these are popping up, and I have even talked to some of them in the last 3 to 5 years, some of these organizations and such, and you can go online and get your prescriptions cheaper, a lot cheaper. And but anyway, this is something that I was just wondering if others have heard of or have used. And I think it's a good idea, mainly because I'm coming from, I was the mother of all these kids. And when you've got a sick one, then you have to haul all of them out. It's kind of rough. So it was nice to have a family physician that said, you know what, I'm going to give you 5 refills on this medication because it's going to go through all of them. And but anyway, he said, unfortunately, many states have created significant regulatory hurdles for the telemedicine, for instance, by forcing customers to use only doctors they have met personally. So I don't know what all the rules and regulations are in each and every one of the states, but I know that these doctors that are pretty fed up with some of the insurance and regulations and everything, not just insurance but government, they're checking out other things too. I mean, there's a surgical center in Oklahoma that they actually bid for your service. You can turn it into insurance, but they don't take the insurance. They actually bid for your service. You can go get your surgery. I should have gone there and fixed my elbow and get your surgery cheaper. They actually put the competition back in. But I didn't know if you'd ever heard of any of that. And it kind of caught my eye this morning. I was supposed to go to Columbia, Missouri this weekend and spend time with my third son and his family. He had two boys. He had 2 children playing basketball, but the one got the flu, and so we decided we weren't going to go over there and hang out with the flu-infected child. So that's what kind of made me think about that. Now I'm worried about him because it's going to go through all of the kids, and but I didn't know if you'd heard of that. Just kind of a topic that I thought was kind of interesting.
I have heard of it.
She's not excited, I could tell. She said, where is that going this morning?
I know. Not at all.
Well, I've been seeing doctors a lot lately.
It's Monday. In fact, I was going to look for a report. I saw something this morning where the elite now, their favorite pet is a chicken. And but I don't know if it's true or not because all of a sudden the article is gone. So I don't know if it's true, but yeah, they now have pet chickens. They buy diapers for the chickens and
diapers for the chickens.
Diapers for the chickens because they're pets. It's a sign that you're an elite.
I was going to say it's more of a sign that you're an idiot.
Most elites these days are idiots. So yeah, you're right about that. But so that's my story for the day, and I'm sticking.
You're sticking to it. Well, I remember, I married a farmer. Now, we're not farming anymore. We quit farming when we sold the farm back in 1984. We lost our home in a fire, and we just kind of threw our arms up, said, enough's enough. We're going to, and he had already been doing construction on the side, so he went full time. But we raised hogs, fair to finish. And all of a sudden, that's when these potbelly pig pets were starting to be popular, and we're just shaking our heads, at the potbelly pig pets. And I'm assuming they put diapers on them. They said they were easy to train. So I can't imagine putting a diaper on a chicken, but that's.
When I was a kid, we had pet rocks. All right, so
yeah, and they were clean. They were clean.
They didn't wear diapers. Didn't have to buy rock diapers.
You didn't want to leave them laying around and step on them, but you did.
Yeah, rock diapers.
Yeah. Well, here. Go ahead.
I was going to change.
Silly.
I mean, it's really bad when you start talking about rocks and having rocks.
Well, they were going to have National Rock Day. Remember back in the day.
But here's an interesting, and this is kind of fits in with what you do in your other program. There is a San Francisco judge, that is going to be looking into the Monsanto Roundup.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to conduct his own review. The hearings are starting today, and this is a big case for Monsanto and, of course, farmers and others who have sued the company. U.S. District Judge Vince Cahabria will spend a week hearing the experts to help decide whether there is a valid scientific evidence to support the claim that exposure to Roundup can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I thought that was
it is interesting, and I know they've got lots of lawsuits going on. You see it on the news at night. They'll break in and say if you or your family has suffered from this, and you've been exposed to Roundup or these other these other chemicals from. I don't know if they even mention Monsanto, but they do mention Roundup.
Well, it is. He is presiding. This judge is presiding over more than 300 lawsuits against Monsanto by cancer victims and their families who say the company knew about Roundup's cancer risk but failed to warn them. So let's just hope that isn't it Monsanto's nasty.
They're an evil company.
They're an evil company, and it's one of these that has a lot of power, and I believe isn't Roundup illegal to use like in Europe and so forth? They don't even.
Yeah, well, I don't know about Roundup. I know that some of the GMO seeds and such, they're not allowing those. Other countries seem to be a little more skeptical about it, and the United States just keeps opening their arms and saying, yeah, do whatever you want with Monsanto. And we farmed, and, when those first came out, you thought that was, the best thing since sliced toast, and it saved a lot of work for the farm and that kind of thing. But as time marches on, you realize that these products can be extremely dangerous. And they are also the company, I think we're getting ready to go into a break, they're also the company that invented, created, whatever, the product that our young men used in Vietnam, which was Agent Orange, and we know how many of those young men are suffering. I hear the music. We're going into a break. If you don't want to talk about rocks, we'll change the topic. 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and it's a Monday morning, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we are back from the commercial break.
Well, all weekend long, all they did was talk about the tariffs and so forth. And, it was, the world is, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I don't think the sky is going to fall because of the tariffs, that's for sure. There's a whole lot of other problems that are much more severe than the tariffs. And, tariffs are good, tariffs are great. It's just a matter of how much it actually happens. That we actually see any type of benefits from these tariffs, and that still remains to be seen. And everybody was talking about, he just brought this out. No, we talked about it 2-3 weeks ago about the tariffs. His Commerce Secretary came out, said the price percentage that they were estimating, the countries it would affect. So, it isn't no big surprise. Maybe the announcement was, but it's something that they have been working on. So, and I can't figure it out because no one defends that. No one that comes on, any of the news programs, would say, well, we've been talking about it for weeks. We talked about it on the program. So, if we knew about it, then, I'm sure D.C. knew about it. And so, again, it's just, it's just 24/7 of this, attacks one way or another. And certainly now they're tying these tariffs to, any type of discussions with NAFTA. President Trump says no Mexico, Canada steel break without a fair NAFTA negotiation and so forth. So I think the NAFTA talks are finally winding down and so forth. And we'll, and again, it takes, if any of these are beneficial, it's going to take years for anybody, for us, for people to actually see the benefits. And so I don't think when you have cities like Pittsburgh, who was once a steel manufacturing hub, that and now it's all high tech and they have no plants. So these plants have to be rebuilt, re-engineered, and so I think the tariffs will mainly benefit those that are already in place to take advantage of that. So again, tariffs are good, but we'll just have to wait and see how it funnels down to everyone. And I think we hit a topic that people want to talk about because we just suddenly had a lot of callers.
We do.
So we'll first go to Tom in Michigan.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. When they call it a tariff, actually that's doing this under the National Security Act and doing it by executive orders. And a tariff is a tax. It has to be uniform. It's in the Constitution. It uses the term tariff. All executive orders have to have a basis in an act of Congress, at least according to the Supreme Court. That was Panama Reef Company versus Ryan, and the taxes have restrictions too. And Bailey versus Drexel Furniture Company in 1922, the Supreme Court said that taxes can only be used for raising revenue. And then the restrictions in the Constitution that they have to be uniform. So they're calling this is the way they confuse us with language. They're calling it a tariff, and actually the way Trump seems to be implementing it, it seems to conform to the uniformity, and he's putting the same tariff on all steel products, coming across our border, but being under the national security there again, it's I don't think we can really call it a tax so. Where he got his 25% figure from, I'm not sure where he got that. Personally, I was I'm in Detroit, and I was early on I was in the machinist tool and die trade, back in the 60s, and we were kind of the top guys on the planet, and since then now it's impossible pretty much to get a job around here as a machinist. Between, overseas competition and that, and robotics, CNC machines and that. So when they're calling this tariff protectionist, 25%, and they're admitting right on all the shows that this is to protect the steel industry, which I think is a good thing, and maybe that's what we need because we haven't had any tariffs for so long. If you're in the service, a politician or anybody else in a service industry, they can get cheap goods from overseas. But the trouble is, what are your neighbors in the manufacturing industry? And, he's out of work. How long is that going to work? And then people get angry when they have to pay more taxes and welfare and all kind of social programs. But when there's less and less jobs, and tariffs have to be, in order to have a fair tariff, it has to be only to raise revenue, and supply and demand. Laws of economics would determine what that actual percentage is, and it would have to apply across the board. So. Well, I think what's happening, we can say we buy an item at the store for $10, and the American company is making $1 worth of profit, and the Chinese company is making $8 worth of profit because of low wages and no environmental restrictions. Then, if the American company, we really can't compete because the Chinese company will keep the prices up there. Just, to give the illusion that we actually have manufacturing, but makes us extremely weak not to have our own manufacturing on our own soil. And, so I'm for tariffs. I just don't think this is a tariff, what we're experiencing now. although it's probably a good start.
Well, they've been trying to put tariffs on steel for years. You had Bush back in the early 2000. He tried to put tariffs on, I believe. They were lifted because there was an adverse effect on employment and on the GDP. Back in 2015, 2016, there was issues of putting, huge, call it what you want, tariffs, duties, taxes, whatever, on steel products, the Chinese, to keep them from dumping their products. So, this isn't new. To try to curb the amount of steel that was coming in, and we all know that a lot of this steel is inferior to begin with. But China, everything is focused on China, but China doesn't even come into the top 10. They're number 11 as far as exporting steel to the U.S. So there's a lot of and the previous tariffs and tax and so forth, certainly there was always countries that were exempt, they pinpoint and so forth. And I'm not sure how I feel that something gets done just to make it a national security issue, so it can be done by executive order. I just don't know. I get mixed thoughts about that, but tariffs isn't new. They've tried it, and they put them on, they take them off, and somebody squawks loud enough, and so forth. So we'll see if it sticks. We'll see if the NAFTA, how that actually gets renegotiated. They're having issues. I didn't think they could come to any agreements on the NAFTA. So, maybe this was something with the tariffs just to get that part done.
Well, just yesterday I was met an acquaintance of mine I haven't seen for some time who was working in a steel mill, and he's laid off. And from what they said on the Sunday shows, our steel and aluminum industries are hanging by a thread, and the infrastructure in those, it's a lot to get one of those started. It's a lot of investment in personnel, experienced personnel, and equipment. And I think you can't make an argument that it's national security if we got a huge steel industry hanging on by a thread. Although I think tariffs, they need everything coming into this country should have a tariff, according to the rules of the mathematical rules of price theory, where to make the maximum amount of revenue. That way the prices would be competitive, people, and it would help people from losing their jobs from markets being flooded with cheap goods from overseas. And that's just the bottom line.
I can't remember which product that comes from Canada. I don't know if it's wood or something. But we can dictate if something's being built, how much of that product is, from foreign companies and how much of it is made right here in the United States. Don't you think that if we, they talk about infrastructure, if we start working on the infrastructure, how much, and if we used U.S. steel, wouldn't that bring back a degree of jobs and so forth?
Well, the local people spend the money in the local neighborhoods, and notwithstanding, I don't want to get off on the IRS, how they, I'm in an urban area where people really can't get started in any kind of business around here. And one of the reasons I blame, one is the expensive auto insurance, and the other is, the bookkeeping, the IRS. People around here, that are willing to work, they don't have time to keep books for the IRS, so everything is cash under the table. And, you just can't get ahead like that. You can't make any money. So, so tariffs, if they could have tariffs on everything, if the government would just obey the law instead of an unconstitutional income tax, I just think it would go a long way to reviving, the people. Then people wouldn't need so much welfare and food stamps and things of that nature.
I get it.
It's all devised. Yeah, that's kind of the plan. All right.
All righty, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate
Appreciate the call. I'm going to go to Joe in Arkansas. Joe, how are you today?
Oh, I'm still getting by, and how are y'all?
We're getting by, too.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I think you all brought up a really good point just recently, and that's that there seems to be really nobody in the media that's consistently making an intelligent case for tariffs and protectionism. There just isn't. Pretty much all the, once in a while, some patriotic or conservative commentator will say something in favor of protectionism and tariffs, but nobody makes a consistent and intelligent case for them. And pretty much all the conservative talk show hosts, are for free trade. And, of course, the mainstream big media, that's for free trade, too. And they just scream and scream and scream against any protectionism, any tariffs, this kind of stuff. And they don't really make an intelligent case for free trade. Mainly what they do is they try to scare everybody that things are going to cost so much more, if we buy them made in America.
Well, they will.
But what I found, what nobody seems to bother to do is to read the many intelligent, really good economics books out there that really make the case intelligently for protectionism and tariffs. For instance, I've read one called Unforgiven, the story of how America has exchanged parity agriculture for parity war by Charles Walters Jr. Extremely good economics book, the best economics book I've ever read, and it makes a very intelligent case for protectionism and tariffs. J.R. Martin and Ian Fletcher are two economists recently. They've written extremely good books on the subject that hardly anybody bothers to read, but they make an extremely good case with economics and history and so on like that, why protectionism and tariffs are good policy. Then another one, a 19th century writer named Henry Carey, wrote an extremely good book published in 1853 called The Harmony of Interests, where he makes he really studied the subject intensively, and he wrote an extremely good book, showing why tariffs and protectionism are the better policy. But hardly anybody bothers to read these books, and so hardly anybody knows the history of it. And personally, from studying the history of it, I think this country never would have developed into a major industrialized and manufacturing country, except that all through the 19th century and early 20th century, we did have tariffs on imports, generally running around 30 to 40%. And since we got rid of those, we've seen the industry more and more leave the country, and the jobs more and more leave the country, and we're becoming less and less, and under the policies that we've been following, the free trade policies that we've been following, we've been becoming more and more, monstrously in debt, insignificant economic power, because we just don't make hardly anything in this country anymore. And China, being the manufacturing industrial power that it's become, is coming to dominate the world. And I just heard some news just recently that I think should have all the alarm bells of Americans ringing, and that's that Apple is moving their headquarters to China, and they're really getting big time with the Chinese government. And so pretty much everything in the modern world, all of life in the modern world, has come to depend on these computers and cell phones, and we don't make any of them in this country anymore. And most of the manufacturing of them is in China now, and it looks like now more and more all the R&D for developing the technology further is going to China also. And so, it's like suppose in the early 20th century, when automobiles and trucks were coming in to replace the horses, this country had decided, well, we're not going to bother manufacturing these things in our country. We're not going to develop automotive engineers in our country. We're just going to buy all our cars and trucks from England or Germany or France or whoever else wants to make.
Well, we didn't have the transportation at that point in time, and in order to, carry things back and forth and whatnot. So I mean, that wasn't probably not even a question about whether the automobiles, where would they be made. The automobiles were made, and for the Americans, and so I get how that comes up. But, my question always is, it's probably a day late to have any impact as far as correcting our problems, because our problems are so severe. I don't think you're going to have the idea that we anticipate, of this actually being beneficial to the point where we go back to where we were so many years ago. I don't think.
Hey, where there's life, there's hope. We should always, whatever the situation is,
there's
whatever
also
we
reality.
think we can do to make the situation
hope.
better, we should take steps in the better direction instead of in the worst direction.
Absolutely. There's always hope, but there's also reality. So, well,
the reality is that people have been predicting doomsday for a long time too, and we've never had doomsday. Things keep on struggling along somehow or another. So I'd say let's not talk about doomsday. Let's not count on doomsday coming, because it's been predicted so many times before and it's never come.
You're right.
Let's do what we can to make things better.
Well, you know what, Joe? You're right. They have been predicting doomsday forever and ever, but you can't tell me that things gotten better.
Well, that's because we've been taking steps in the wrong direction instead of the right direction. If we take steps in the right direction, things can start getting better again.
Both of us can't talk at the same time. And you can't tell me that we aren't close to something major happening. How it affects each and every one of us remains to be seen. People are hurting, just like we heard Tom talk about. But all that is also covered up. So yeah, I have hope. I hope things can happen, but the reality of it is we have a country that can't do infrastructure because we're broke. We're bankrupt. If you got, if you spent all your money on your credit cards and you got a zero balance, there's only so much you can do. We're going to have to create the money and get deeper in debt to try to get us out of the problems that we're in. The two just, I don't see the balance. I don't see where, sure, any attempt, but I think I'm more positive in the attempts to these things to do now after we have the adjustment of a collapse. Then I think these will be powerful. These situations and the changes that might be made today might be powerful at that point in time. But the impact today, when we have the problems that we have, we can.
Well, here's what I say about that collapse thing, and that's if people aren't smart enough to prevent a collapse, then I don't think they're going to be smart enough to rebuild intelligently after a collapse.
Well, the point is they have
we better do all we can to try to get intelligent policies to prevent a collapse.
They have prevented the collapses. What do you think we're in debt for? All the money that's been created has been going into the Wall Street in order to keep the system going. Every recession we've ever had was created by debt to keep it going. We didn't come out of recessions due to hard work and great economic conditions. We came out because the system was pumped with fiat dollars. That's how we came out of those recessions. So they were smart enough to create these and prevent these collapses, just like they did in 2008. They spent trillions of dollars so it wouldn't collapse. So they are smart enough to do it, but they're not smart enough to have an end game. You're right about that. They don't have an end game, so they're just going to keep it going for as long as they can. And I think what we're seeing now and experiencing is these various decisions and so forth. Yeah, I mean, it shocks me. People have been following the markets for as long as I have, and the people that I've talked to, they have extreme power. They can always pull things out of their hat to prevent it from happening, but they're not fixing the problem. They're not making it better.
Well, and they are manipulating for profit as well.
Well, let me say this. There's one way. Hello? Yeah, can I say this, please? Please. Okay, there's one way out of debt. If the problem is debt, there's one way out of debt, and that is to run the economy more on earned money than on debt. So whatever we can do to produce more and have more earned money in circulation in this country rather than borrowed money, that will help to get down the debt. That's the only solution to the debt. Earn more money so that we run the economy more on earned money rather than borrowed money.
Nope, the only way
anything that will have us producing more and circulating more earned money inside the country, that will help to get down the debt.
Then you don't understand the amount of debt that we're in. And the only way we're going to get out of the debt that we're in is by defaulting on it. And Mr. Trump has already said during the campaign, well, I don't know why I can't renegotiate the bonds and so forth. That's default.
Yeah.
It's bankruptcy. It's restructuring. It's bankruptcy. It's defaulting. So our debt is too big. We're not going to be able to grow ourselves out. You have people that are tapped, record taxes, record revenues, and we're still a $500 million deficit. So you tell me how many jobs and the wages, where would the wages have to go? So wages aren't coming back to where they once were. We have a healthcare industry where people are paying $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year for health for a family of 4. So you tell me where this goes with high prices and inflation. Government loves inflation, but it's the private tax. It steals from people. It steals from people. Thank you.
We appreciate it, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Good back and forth, because that's what we need is the debates to go on. We have, let's see, we're about out of to a commercial break. You want to hold on, or you want to take the next caller?
We can see what he's got.
Okay, we'll go to Lance in Texas. Lance, how are you today?
Morning, ladies. I'm good.
What's up, Lance?
Look, when you have a fiat money system, you're never broke. You only become broke when people lose faith in the currency. Mm-hmm. You have to keep creating the money.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just the way it is. So,
right.
But your key there is confidence. And I think
exactly.
And look at the state of affairs. You think this confidence is going to be going on forever? And I think also it's confidence true, but we also have large countries that are beating us everywhere. China, they went into debt, but they went into debt by building up their infrastructure, not by building up their finances, their Wall Street.
And we are headed into a break. Lance, thank you so much for your call and your input. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann. We'll be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Our talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we are in the final segment already of today's show.
You know what? It's true about fiat currency. They can just keep printing, and it's kind of like what I say, debt doesn't matter until it does. And but with the fiat currency that we have, look at the condition of our country. You're not going to be able to reverse this country until we no longer have a fiat currency. So no longer to have a fiat currency, that means we're going to have to default on the debt. So we can continue along this path where fiat money is created, and we go along. Government keeps getting bigger. We'll elect recognized, admitted socialists, even though we're already on the line of socialist communist nation. But it'll make it official. It'll make it official then. So that's what you have with fiat currencies. That's what you have with debt. And yeah. Trust me, they can take this along. Maybe they can take this a little bit further. But are we just going to sit back and accept it and think that, by putting some tariffs and by, bringing a few jobs back into this country, that we can actually pay off the debt or at least attempt to pay it off? I mean, we had the budget. Gee, was there any spending cuts? I don't think so.
There's never any spending cuts.
So. There's going to be spending cuts, and it's going to be in Social Security. It's going to be in Medicare. It's going to be in the entitlement programs. And yeah, I know there's people out there that, but who paid into Social Security? Who paid into Medicare? So, there's $20 trillion sitting there in retirement accounts, pension plans, IRAs. You think that's safe? It's just like, I'd like to have pie in the sky too. But the reality is, and I pray every day I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I haven't been. And the doomsday, maybe if you're not affected by it, maybe these doomsday scenarios don't mean anything. But when it means that there's other people that lose their livelihoods, they lose their businesses.
They lose their retirements. They lose their 401k. They lose everything.
Don't we get to the point where we don't care about anybody anymore? So, is there anything that I can do about it? Well, that's what I do. I do try to help people. And so, anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate your calls, each and every one of you. You got me all fired up. I need to go take my blood pressure.
Well, I think it's a good thing. We need to hear both sides, and we need to, that's how you come to eventually come to agreements or agree to disagree. I think it's, we know that we're being manipulated. That is, that's a no-brainer. We know that's been going on. We have Oscar, real quick, before we end the day. We have Oscar. Oscar, how are you today?
Good morning, ladies. How are you today?
Good morning.
Okay, couple of comments. You couldn't say better words were never spoken, Melody, when you said when you refer about reality. Reality is big and bitter. Since 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, it took over the finances of this country. And not only that, the Federal Reserve became a big, gigantic, gargantuous octopus that control the finances of the world. You go to other countries, and the first thing you're going to see when you go downtown in any capital of the world, Central Bank of Colombia, Central Bank of Chile, Central Bank of Panama, these people have control of everything. Now, there's certain people around, they seem to have their own Bible in their mind, and out of the Bible, they got books coming out of the kazoo with all kinds of stuff. But like you said, Melody, reality is something else. And what is the reality? The reality is we are under the New World Order, and the New World Order we control everything. The big corporations. Why don't we tell the corporations what to do? Huh? What do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to accept input? These people have control of everything. You were talking earlier in the program about Monsanto. There's a bad corporation, it's evil. What do you think about the rest of them? These big, fat corporations, they control our government, control the world, control everything. And everything they do is done by design. So, also by saying that if we keep printing the money, we're not going to go broke. Of course we're going to go broke, because by printing money, you create interest. That's a private corporation selling money to the government, and then we have to pay the interest. That's why we accumulated so much debt. And we are absolutely practically broke now. And, these people have to understand that. You're not going to fix it by reading books. That is totally, I don't know how to qualificate that.
Well, we do have to educate ourselves.
Like you said, Melody, and that's where we should do. And thank you very much for letting me speak my mind. I appreciate that. Have a lovely day, ladies.
Oh, thank you.
You too, Oscar. Thank you. Thank you.
We can't fix it by reading books, but we do have to educate ourselves, and so much of the time we don't. And we have to. Yeah, and you have to know both sides of the stories. You have to see both sides, and that's what I love about you, Melody, is because you have done your homework. You do keep yourself educated and on top of things, and we know that it's not just the United States. All these countries, all these other countries are doing the same thing with this fiat money and the debts. We care about us more. And, it does start at home. It does start at home. And I really encourage you to use discount gold and silver trading and get started with securing what you do have. It may not be much, but secure what you do have. And that's 877. No, that's not. It's 1-800-375-4188 is discount gold and silver trading to talk to Melody. It's 1-800-375-4188. Go to the website, discount gold and silver trading. It's dgscoins.com.
Thank you. And thank you. And it is, and the problem, we hear about all these doomsday scenarios, and I'll tell you what, that's the fault of these analysts. That's the fault of some of these people that get paraded around on all of these programs, the Stansberries, I shouldn't mention names, but you all know who I'm talking about. They give dates, and all this is going to happen. The red alerts are out there and so forth, and we're on a red alert. The whole West Coast is going to fall off. I can't help people believe that. These are powerful
voices.
No, not voices. They're carnival barkers. That's what they are. They're carnival barkers. And, those that pick dates and this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Folks, you have to see the big picture. If you just focus on this one little event or what somebody's going to say, you're going to miss it. Smart people don't give dates. People who really know what's going on and understand what's going on, they don't give predictions and dates. Certainly we can see maybe, this might happen, this might happen, and, maybe we should be a little careful at this point in time and so forth. But those who call months, those who call this, it's all a sales pitch to you. And they're the ones who bring up these doomsday scenarios. And, we came close to a doomsday scenario after the Great Recession of 2008. And they pulled a rabbit out of their hat by trillions and trillions of dollars. So, added on top of other trillions of dollars. So, history repeats. Look at Reagan, tax cuts, 120% increase on the debt. It worked for a year and a half. It was a lot better country back then in those days. We didn't have the problems in those days that we have today. All the books that were written previously and talks about how we could change, how to run economies and so forth, those are in great world scenarios. And that's why they really don't apply to today, unless the system collapses, and then maybe we can use those theories to make it a better place. But, we're at a point in time, folks, if you think that we're going to go back in time, you're sadly mistaken. And I think we have to look to a future that there's no one out there to look after you. You have to do it on your own. And, if you want to be in their world, you want to play their games and risk everything, that's your choice. But if you want to get protected, give us a call at 1-800-375-4188.
Yeah.
I hear some music.
I hear the music, and we are free. Give Melody a call at 1-800-375-4188. Look at the website and sign up for the newsletter at dgscoins.com. Melody, you have a great rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Bye-bye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.